first real pioneers of what is now the state of California were the Franciscan friars. On foot and with slow crude means of transportation, these earnest, kindly emissaries of the church and civilization, defying dangers, established a line of missions which stretched for almost 700 miles. For more than a century and a half, the picturesque edifices remained the greatest historical landmarks of the Golden State. The friars came from Old Mexico under the leadership of the indomitable Father Junipero Serra. In San Diego Bay, on July 16, 1769, Father Serra, assisted by Don Gaspar de Portola, the first governor of California, held the ceremony founding San Diego de Alcala, the first of these missions, and claiming the country for the church, and Carlos III, King of Spain. Today, the crumbling edges of its pearly white walls give an even richer beauty to the scene, and the ancient tower bells, though silent, seem to echo the long-forgotten music which called to worship the converts of those friars who are so unforgettably perpetuated in memory and the missions they built. Although this unexplored land was fabulously known to the Spaniards as Island of Amazons, the terrestrial paradise, to journey through the country meant constant hazard of being massacred by hostile Indians. But neither danger nor difficulty restrained these holy men in their peaceful conquest. It was less than a year later that a second mission on El Camino Real, or the King's Highway, was founded. This was San Carlos Borromeo on Monterey Bay. The present structure was built 5 miles from the site originally selected. This became Father Serra's headquarters, and here he is buried. In their further journeys, little wonder it is that the pioneering friars were loath to leave this mission in the pleasant valley of Carmel. San Gabriel Arcangel, not far from Los Angeles, is known as the Queen of Missions. It was once surrounded by a stockade to protect its inhabitants from the marauding bands of savages. Drama, romance, and poetry still linger at San Gabriel, now the scene of the famous mission play. It was from San Gabriel Mission on September 4th, 1781, that a small detachment of soldiers, priests, and 44 settlers formed a procession to dedicate formally the tiny plaza of a new town and named it Pueblo de Nuestra Señora la Reina de Los Angeles. San Juan Capistrano is considered one of the most beautiful of all these missions. The first attempt to establish it ended in failure. And when finally completed, an earthquake which occurred during a religious service shook the beautiful building into ruins and killed many of the congregation. There were times when the Franciscan friars were dependent upon the military to protect their missions from being destroyed and themselves from being wiped out. although much of their traveling was done alone and unarmed. Their object was to make friends of and convert the native inhabitants, rather than to subjugate them with force and violence. The Santa Barbara Mission was named in honor of the Feast of St. Barbara, having been founded on that religious occasion. The date was December 4th, 1786. Within a year, a chapel was built, as well as a house for priests, quarters for married and unmarried men, a granary and a kitchen. From this date on, the mission grew larger and the community rapidly prospered. It became the center of an aristocratic Spanish colony. By the end of 1807, there were 252 of what might be called California's first bungalows surrounding the church. The mission of San Juan Bautista was founded on June 24th, 1797, on the day of the feast of St. John the Baptist. It took hundreds of workers 15 years to complete the church and other buildings. In its tall tower still hangs the chime of 9 bells, which sent their music out over the surrounding wilderness. And in the big courtyard are interesting relics of long past days and modes of occupation. The church proper is sufficiently large to accommodate 1,000 worshipers. It is said that an early padre of San Juan once set an organ on a prominence overlooking the valley and began to play. When the Indians first heard the strange, sweet music, they fell upon their faces in fear, finally approaching to gather enraptured about the friar, who played for an hour and then preached to them. The mission of San Fernando Rey near Los Angeles was dedicated to San Fernando III, King of Spain. Its checker-shaded cloisters look onto patio gardens that are remindful of Gethsemane. In the midst of this quiet sanctimony stands a statue of Friar Junipero Serra, whose accomplishment was far more than religion, and who built in California even a greater monument than any and all of his missions. Even the soft breezes in the palms and gnarled branches seem to join in a Te Deum of praise to those patriarchal sages who pioneered the Golden State. And no matter what one's creed may be, respect and reverence is undeniable. San Luis Rey, founded in 1798, was once the richest and most prosperous of all these missions. But today, little is left of the original palatial structure except crumbling pillars and broken arches. Its main facade, borne on 32 great square pillars supporting arches, is little more than a white skeleton of its former beauty. Padre Peri, the friar who designed the buildings and supervised this mission, labored for 30 years to build a tiny empire in the wilderness. Its bells ring no more, but the Padre and his work are not forgotten. Near the ruins of the original mission has been erected an attractive building in keeping with the architecture of the old ones. This is now appropriately used as a college for the training of missionaries for the field. The work they set out to do, now completed, stands throughout the great state of California as an everlasting monument to Father Junipero Serra and his courageous followers of the cross.